When the news broke on April 18, 2024, the world of Southern rock fell silent. Dickey Betts, the legendary guitarist, songwriter, and founding member of the Allman Brothers Band, had passed away at the age of 80. The announcement came from his family, who said he died peacefully at his home in Osprey, Florida, surrounded by loved ones. But behind that peaceful farewell lay years of struggle, pain, and a legacy marked by both brilliance and heartbreak. Fans who grew up on his songs like Ramblin' Man and Blue Sky couldn't believe it. To them, Dickey wasn't just a musician, he was the heartbeat of a generation. Yet his journey wasn't always harmonious. Behind the guitar solos and the bright lights were decades of battles, against loss, addiction, and the dark shadow of being forever compared to his fallen brothers in arms. For those who only knew him for his riffs, Dickey Betts was more than just a guitarist. Born Forrest Richard Betts on December 12, 1943, in West Palm Beach, Florida, he was raised in a working-class family that taught him the value of grit. As a teenager, he blended country, blues, and rock into something raw and revolutionary. That sound would later define the Allman Brothers Band and inspire generations of Southern rockers. In the late 1960s, when Betts teamed up with Duane and Greg Allman, something magical was born. The blend of Duane's slide guitar and Betts's melodic phrasing created one of the most recognizable sounds in rock history. Their live performances, like at Fillmore East, became the stuff of legend. But with every rise comes a shadow, and for Dickey, that shadow came sooner than anyone expected. In 1971, tragedy struck the band when Duane Allman was killed in a motorcycle crash in Macon, Georgia. The loss devastated everyone, but perhaps no one more than Dickey Betts. Suddenly, the band's sound and future rested on his shoulders. Only a year later, bassist Barry Oakley also died in a similar accident. Two losses, just a year apart, and both brothers in music gone too soon. Dickey stepped up to lead the band, writing the timeless classic Ramblin' Man and taking the group to new heights. Yet the weight of grief and expectation began to take its toll. The more he tried to fill the void left by Duane and Barry, the more isolated he became. Fame was no comfort. It was a constant reminder of what he had lost. Throughout the 1970s, Dickey Betts's guitar work became legendary, but so did his temper. Known for his fiery personality, he often clashed with bandmates, producers, and managers. The pressures of touring, combined with the chaos of fame, led to drinking and drug use that clouded his judgment. Those close to him said he could be the most charming man in the room, and the most volatile. The Allman Brothers Band would break up and reunite multiple times over the decades, and each time, the same pattern repeated: musical brilliance followed by personal turmoil. Betts's intensity was both his gift and his curse. While his solos inspired millions, his personal life spiraled. The man who once wrote songs about freedom found himself trapped in a storm of his own making. By the early 2000s, tensions within the Allman Brothers Band reached their breaking point. Greg Allman and other members decided to part ways with Dickey due to creative and personal differences. To fans, it was heartbreaking. How could the man who wrote Jessica and Ramblin' Man be cast out of the very band he helped create? Dickey took it hard. The split wasn't just professional, it felt personal. For the next several years, he continued to perform with his own band, Great Southern, but the separation from his brothers in music never stopped hurting. He once said in an interview, "We were family, dysfunctional, but family. And when that ended, it broke something inside me." That brokenness would linger long after the applause faded. Even as he aged, Betts's battles didn't end. Years of hard living had taken their toll. He suffered from chronic pain, memory problems, and addiction struggles that grew worse over time. Friends and family often tried to intervene, but Dickey was stubborn. The same stubbornness that made him a guitar hero also made him resistant to help. In 2018, tragedy nearly struck again when he suffered a severe brain injury after falling at his Florida home. The fall led to surgery, and fans feared the worst. But true to form, Dickey fought back, determined to recover. He made it through, but the experience left him physically weakened and spiritually drained. Still, he never stopped picking up his guitar. Music, even in his final years, was his lifeline. By the early 2020s, Dickey had largely stepped away from the spotlight. He spent most of his time in Florida, surrounded by family, enjoying quiet days near the water. In interviews, he reflected on the past with both pride and regret. "I made mistakes," he admitted, "but I lived my life the only way I knew how, through the music." Though his health continued to decline, he remained deeply connected to his fans. Occasionally, photos would surface of him with a guitar in hand, smiling softly, his eyes still burning with that familiar fire. But insiders knew his condition was worsening. The once unstoppable force of Southern rock was slowly fading, and by early 2024, his loved ones knew the end was near. In the final weeks of his life, Dickey Betts was surrounded by those who loved him most: his wife, Donna, his children, and close friends. They say he spent his last days reminiscing about his early years with the Allman Brothers Band and listening to old recordings of In Memory of Elizabeth Reed and Blue Sky. His wife later said, "He went out the way he lived, peacefully, with music in the air." When his passing was announced on April 18, 2024, tributes flooded in from across the world. Musicians like Warren Haynes, Derek Trucks, and even Eric Clapton honored him as one of the greatest guitarists of all time. But amid the praise, many fans couldn't help but feel the lingering sadness that behind the fame, Dickey Betts had carried decades of pain that the world never truly saw. The truth about Dickey Betts's life is far darker than the headlines ever revealed. His story wasn't just about success, it was about survival. He endured tragedy after tragedy, fought inner demons, and watched as friends and bandmates died young. Yet he kept going, driven by an unshakable bond with music. Even in his struggles, Dickey left behind a body of work that changed rock forever. His guitar solos weren't just technically brilliant, they were emotional, almost spiritual. He poured every ounce of his soul into his playing, and that's why his music still resonates today. The darkness in his life only made his light shine brighter in his art. Today, when we listen to Ramblin' Man or Jessica, we're not just hearing songs, we're hearing the soul of a man who lived, fought, and suffered for his craft. Dickey Betts may be gone, but his music remains eternal. His story reminds us that even legends carry pain, and behind every great song lies a lifetime of struggle and sacrifice. As his wife said at his memorial, "He was wild, he was stubborn, but he was real. And that's what made him Dickey Betts." The truth about Dickey Betts isn't just dark, it's deeply human. A life of brilliance, chaos, and redemption that shaped the sound of American rock forever. Dickey Betts's journey was one of triumph and tragedy, a story that proves even legends are mortal. His music continues to echo through generations, reminding us that the best art often comes from the deepest pain. What's your favorite memory of Dickey Betts? Share it below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more untold stories from the icons who define music history.